All right, on to the next question, which is from Christian F. What about, so a little more question from Christian. What about any plans for Tom Sawyer Island in the Magic Kingdom? Other than filling it in?
Well, all right. This is weird to say this about Florida because you know when you drive there through all of this land, you can't help but think, you could build theme parks forever. You could put attractions outside of the berm. You could do anything. But there is a 50-year plan, talking growth-wise, for the kingdom that does involve Tom Sawyer's Island going away, and that turf then becoming an expansion area of the park. The hard reality is, yes, the Mark Twain is charming, but it's slow moving. And because it's slow moving, it's low capacity. Every so often, it has to go down for lengthy and very expensive rehabs.
Are you saying, Jim, that there's a lack of qualified riverboat steam engine repair people in the United States? In my town, it's right next to the buggy whip people. I don't know. I don't know where they are in Orlando.
Pull them out. Lure them into the car with a fresh bottle of Moxie. No, it's look. That you have to. In fact, this has been kind of an issue that when the original Disneyland was built in '55, and you walk down Main Street, this reflected the way your grandparents actually grew up, and they were charming and nostalgic. And likewise, when you turn the corner and here's Frontierland, it's like, there's a few actual paddle boats that still are on the Mississippi, that haven't, and of course they're there today, but it's just as, taking tourists up and down the river.
Right. That's true. So yeah, you think about that. In the 50s, your parents might have remembered Main Street, but their parents probably remembered the Frontier because if your parents were, let's say, in their 40s, that means they were born in the teens. That means their parents were, likely in the late 1800s, were kids in the late 1800s, and conceivably that that's before gas lamps and stuff like that in the United States. So within your extended family, people could have remembered the actual Frontier. It's not entirely impossible.
And now, face it, that they're kind of these exercises in nostalgia that doesn't resonate with people coming through the door.
Yeah, it's just place setting. Yeah.
That there were some very active discussions. For example, with Disneyland Paris, at one point they were going to move Main Street USA up to the 1920s, and you were going to have bootleggers and gangsters, and in fact, it was Eisner that put the kibosh on that, supposedly after coming home one night after having seen, Brian De Palma's The Untouchables, and it's just sort of like, after watching Al Pacino beat a guy to death with a baseball bat, gangsters aren't quite as fun as I remember them.
No.
And then
think it was in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, in the 50s, think about it. We're 60 years on from the 50s, and the people who remember that are past retirement age.
Well, this is where it got surreal when they were designing Hong Kong, because one of the ideas they were actually potentially looking at for Hong Kong was 1950s. You big fin cars, you entered through the park, and you walk by the store that hey, we're selling televisions, and they'd be showing the wonderful world of color, and it just they were, but at the same time it was like when it came time to the meeting and showing it to the investors in Shanghai, and they kind of blinked across the table, and it was like, America 1950s?
That's right.
So,
yeah.
So they just
right.
knee-jerk back to Main Street, which is why I think everybody's just fascinated to see what happens with Shanghai, because this park, this is the first time they've actually developed a theme park that is totally set. They learned a lot of hard lessons with Hong Kong, and Shanghai, is the park that reflects that, whether it's, creating lots more attractions that happen outdoors, so, the poor little Oriental women don't walk up to Space Mountain and go, oh, a planetarium show, and
Fantastic. We'll go in. It'll be great, kids. It's educational, I'll bet.
Yeah, and I mean, you can actually see this with for example, when you look at how they did Hong Kong with Grizzly Gulch. I mean, this is the first time a roller coaster you can walk in, around, under. There's no mistaking, when you come into this land, this is a roller coaster, and you either want to get on it or you don't. But at the same time, there were lots of benches around the roller coaster because, as it turned out, the Chinese people who go to the park, they take their one child, but they take both sets of grandparents. So you have a lot of people who sit around watching other people have fun. Or what they found out in Hong Kong, what will happen is that the family will go to lunch, and then the grandparents will sit in the restaurant for the next 3 or 4 hours drinking tea while the parents take the child out to do attractions. And
that's going to kill your turnover ratio.
No, that was it.
Hey, we made $81 today.
So this is why so much of Shanghai is gardens with benches, with the notion of, you and Grandma want to sit outside? Look at the lovely bench and the lovely garden. Get the hell out of my restaurant.
Exactly. Turn this table over. That's funny. Oh, good question. All right, so a similar question from Michael L. He said, yep.